everybody can just tighten in as much as possible. So we're just going to start with a few words from some of the supporters, some of the families that are here. Mr. Heyward and his group are about to come out. They just finished meeting with the Civil Rights Bureau of Ken Thompson's office. They're going to give us an update. But first, we're just going to go through some of the speakers. My name is Josmar Trujillo. I'm with the Coalition End Broken Windows, and I'm part of the Justice for Nicholas Heyward Committee. We want to thank everybody for coming out and help us keep putting pressure on Kenneth Thompson and the criminal justice system of this city. And we want to make sure that as we come out here, we're upholding the names of all the victims of police brutality. From this year, from last year, from 20 years ago, from however many years ago, we're carrying a lot of names here. And we want to make sure we make clear to Kenneth Thompson that we need to be able to go into the city's past and also make sure we clear up injustices that are still at the heart of what we see as an epidemic of violence from the police department and as an epidemic of basically not caring about the lives of Black and Latino New Yorkers. So first off, I want to just have family of Brianna Ojeda come out, and I want to thank them for coming out. They've been marching and supporting Mr. Heyward, and likewise the other way around, for as long as I've known him. And I wonder if you guys could come up and just give us a few words.
Sure. My name is Michael, and this is my wife Carmen Ojeda. Our daughter was Brianna Ojeda. She was denied CPR and any help, and that's why she passed away. We were like Ken Thomas. We set up a meeting. We're waiting to hear back from him, but we're waiting for Ken Thomas to grant us that meeting to look at the case and see if any injustice was done. I mean, the police officer held my daughter, and then when they finally, Good Samaritan got in the car and took them home, took them to the hospital, one that was 1 block away. The police officer made a U-turn. He went, he shaved his head bald. He hid for 4 days. And only when we demanded that then Commissioner Kelly resign is when they called us 15 minutes later at the funeral parlor to let us know that they knew who the cop was. So we're here for justice for my daughter, Brianna Ojeda.
What were the whole circumstances leading up to what happened to your daughter?
She was catching an asthma attack, and my wife was rushing her to the hospital. And then she was a block away. The police officer stopped her, and she explained to him why she was driving the way she was driving. And she asked for CPR. He said he don't do CPR, he don't know CPR. And he held her there to get a ticket. And my wife was pleading with him to go to the hospital. Maybe they could take care of it there. He insisted. A lot of people started gathering. And someone actually pushed him out of the way, got in the car and told my wife to drive. He followed behind her, whooping her, making people think that she was some kind of criminal. So people were getting her in her way. My wife went around all the vehicles and finally got to the emergency room where the cops pulled my daughter's body out and she was limp. That's when the police officer made a U-turn and disappeared.
Why do you feel that justice hasn't arrived in that situation to you guys?
Well, it's a new regime right now with the district attorney, so I feel Mr. Thompson he looks at things fairly.
And that's what you hope?
That's what we hope. Yes, and have the police officer be able to be held accountable for his actions after.
This must be hurting your family after you.
You know, my mother and my father both suffered through aneurysms. My mother had brain surgery behind this. every day, this is a nightmare. I wake up praying to God that this is just a bad dream, and I'm gonna wake up and my baby's gonna be there, and every day I wake up and it's not so. It's tragic. And right now we're pushing this law for 6 years in Albany. This is our 6th year. We're back up in Albany, and it passes the assembly, but it doesn't get to go any further, like to the Senate. And this is to mandate police officers every 2 years to get recertified. And the Red Cross, the American Heart, and the American Stroke Association are willing to give this service and this training for free, and for some reason it still don't go. And I don't understand how New York City, the capital of the world, don't have police officers that are able to save a life. It's tragic.
They're taking it. They're good at taking lives.
Would you like to say something?
He covered it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we're gonna go to a few more speakers and the neighbors are gonna come out. I just wanted to quickly give us an update. Just let us together again. We're gonna have Joshua Lopez, nephew of John Colato. And we have the honor of Kai Burley here as well. I'm just gonna have them say some words.
I'd like to thank everybody here for having me today. My name is Joshua Lopez, and I am the nephew of John Colato. John Colato was killed in 2011 by an undercover NYPD officer who never identified himself. And my uncle, John Colato, was just breaking up a fight between the undercover officer and another individual. And the undercover officer never identified himself. And now I'm over here on behalf of my family because we stand in solidarity not only with Nicholas Heyward, but with also all the other families out there. And we need justice because 22 years is too long for any family to get any justice. And we got to continue to put pressure on these lawmakers and these politicians because with pressure, even pipes burst. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Lieutenant Peterson of Akai Gurley.
Hi, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here on behalf of the Kai Gurley team. You know, it's 22 years now that Nicholas Heyward has been trying to get justice for his son. I hope, and I'm pleading to the DA to please revisit his case, to bring closure to this family, to bring justice to this family. It's so ironic that Nicholas Heyward Jr. was killed in the same manner that my nephew Kai Gurley was murdered. We said no more to our loved ones being murdered by NYPD and not being held accountable. All we want is accountability, and it should not be that hard to want accountability for taking an innocent life. Nicholas Jr. was a child. He was only 13 years old. What if this was the DA's child, Charles Hines' child, or anyone else's child? What kind of justice would they want? Well, we want justice. 21 years, 22 years, 5 years, or whatever is too long. We said enough is enough. Thank you.
What's your name?
My name is Hortensia Peterson.
And spell both, please.
Hertensia, Peterson, Petersen.
Thank you.
And we're just going to have a few other speakers and supporters before we have Mr. Heyward give us an update. Nabil from Millions March.
Okay, I'm going to keep this real brief. My name is Nabil Hussain. I'm a member of Millions March. We're a group that does organizing work in the movement for Black Lives here in the city. We just wanted to come out here to give our support to Mr. Heyward. We've been fighting for justice for much longer than a lot of young folks have been in the movement. Even though we know that the police killings of unarmed people, especially black people, have gotten a lot more attention recently. This is something that's been going on for decades. And the case of Nicholas Heyward Jr. is something that really shows that it goes all the way back to our people's history in this country, from when we were enslaved, through Jim Crow, through the epidemic of racist police murder that we're still fighting against now. I just want to say I have so much respect and love for Mr. Heyward and for all the families who've been fighting for so long. Their perseverance is really a great inspiration to us, and the young people in this movement stand in solidarity with the families who've been fighting for a long time.
Devontae, Africans helping Africans.
Good afternoon. 20 plus years, still no justice. 20 plus years, still no justice. This city or this country and this system keeps proving and showing the people how racist they truly are. Why we have to sit here and wait 20 plus years? Why should we have to sit out here 20 plus years and still demand justice for Nicholas Heyward Jr.? This is just showing you how racist this city really is, and it is a true disrespect, and it is a true disrespect to Nicholas Heyward Jr., who Nicholas Heyward behind me, you know, and it just shows you how messed up this whole system is. But when one of their owners killed, they shut down a whole bridge in the middle of rush hour, right? They shut down a whole bridge just to search for a gun that was in the water. Why don't we receive that same treatment? Why every time we are murdered, it's always a cover-up? This is a racist system and needs to be dismantled, and we'll stand out here and demand justice for Nicholas Heyward Jr.
All right, and now Mr. Nicholas Heyward and members of the Justice for the Committee for Justice for Nicholas Heyward.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicholas Heyward Sr. I'm the father of 13-year-old Nicholas Naquan Heyward Jr., who was murdered September 27, 1994 by a New York City housing police officer. He was a rookie officer at the time that he killed my son. The fact is that it was a cover-up in that case. There was actually no proper investigation done by Brooklyn District Attorney Charles Hines. Charles Hines, I accuse him of covering up the case, never presenting it to a grand jury, and for the last 22 years now, I have been out here fighting vigorously to get it opened up and reinvestigated. And actually right now, Charles Hines should be investigating himself for the cover-ups that not only that he's done on my son, but on the many others in Brooklyn, New York. I am so honored that we now have a district attorney, Ken Thompson, who is willing to take a real look into these cases and to expose the reality that there have been cover-ups underneath Charles Hines. I just left the office of the Civil Rights Division, Ken Thompson, and they are still conducting their investigation, and they say they will continue to investigate until they find the truth as to what happened in the case of Nicholas Naquan Heyward Jr.
Can you take us through some of the circumstances that led
The similar circumstances in the case of Nicholas Naquan Heyward Jr. is identical to the case of Ikai Grawley. In both cases, it was a rookie officer who shot and killed Nicholas Heyward Jr. and Ikai Grawley. They claimed that the stairwell lighting was dimly lit and that things happened in a split second. In both cases, they say the officer had a flashlight in one hand and a gun in the other hand, and they used the hand that they had their gun in to open up the door, and the gun supposedly went off accidentally after hearing a sound in the stairwell. In both cases that happened. This right here is a deposition that was done on Brian George in 1997. In this deposition, Brian George, the officer that murdered my son, is stating that he was not on a 911 call like Brooklyn District Attorney Charles Hines stated in closing this case. He said that things did not happen in a split second. And the reality is that he's basically lying and covering up things himself. So my thing is that for the last 21 years, we had a police officer, Brian George, patrolling our streets who have gunned down and killed an innocent child and had no charges brought against him.
What can you tell us about your meeting today?
Well, today, I would like for my team to actually let you know on the legal aspect exactly what happened. But like I said, the Brooklyn District Attorney's Civil Rights Division, they are going to continue their investigation in this case, along with the documents and stuff that I presented to them.
So you're confident they're taking this seriously?
Am I say that again?
You're confident they're taking this seriously?
I am confident. Yes, I am somewhat. I actually don't have much faith in this system. because all I have seen over the last 21 years of my fighting and struggling out here, I have never seen any justice in almost no case. The first time I'm seeing a little bit of justice right now is in the Akai Grawley case. And hopefully this officer will get the sentence that he deserves, which is the 15-year sentence.
How do you feel that this recent case that just went through, that you
The Akai Grawley case?
yeah, that you say there's a similarity to it. How do you feel on those results?
I feel that the Akai Grawley case is a case that should have been in the courts 21 years ago, meaning my son's case should have been in the courtrooms 21 years ago after the murder of Nicholas Naquan Heyward Jr. This right here case with Akai Grawley shows the reality that there has been cover-ups over the years, and we now have in Brooklyn a district attorney who is willing to lay the truth down on the line and prosecute these officers for the acts of injustice of killing innocent, unarmed human beings for committing absolutely no crimes. No threats to the officer. Akai Grawley was not a threat to Peter Lang. He was committing no crimes, but yet he's dead.
So does it matter that your son had a toy gun and that the children were playing with toy guns at the time?
Like I said in this deposition right here, Nicholas Jr. dropped the plastic toy gun and told the officer, we're only playing. In the reports from the NYPD is claiming that there were no witnesses at the scene, which is another lie. NYPD also lied to cover this case. The children were there and witnesses their friend being gunned down. How can they state that there was no witnesses? So this case right here was not only covered up by the Brooklyn District Attorney, it was also covered up by the New York City Police Department also.
You're saying your son dropped the gun, and so there was no excuse there that officer felt threatened seeing a gun.
One of the children that was there playing with Nicholas said the officer asked, what are you doing here? My son answered after dropping the plastic toy gun. He said, we're only playing. Here's something else the press needs to be mindful of, and I hope you can expose this also. A year before my son was murdered, he was illegally arrested for no reason at all. He was actually kidnapped from me because I was present when the officers came and they locked him up for no reason at all. He was petrified after that incident. They took him down to the 76th precinct. They placed him in a lineup. And when Nicholas was asking them many times, telling them many times he did nothing, he didn't do anything. The officers there threatened him with statements saying that if he doesn't keep his mouth shut, they would take their gun and stick it up his butt and pull the trigger. The officer also told Nicholas Jr. at the age of 12, which he was when this happened, that he will not live to be 15. Nicholas at the time of his killing was under therapy. Nicholas wasn't the same person after that incident. That's why when Nicholas seen that officer, he dropped that plastic toy gun immediately and said, we're only playing. The officer in this deposition is lying so bad. The officer is saying that Nicholas pointed the plastic gun at him and clicked it. That is what this officer is stating in this deposition. That is a complete lie. That officer should be right now. Although they are investigating this case, that officer should be locked up right now for making false statements on a child. It's just so painful to actually, it's just a real painful matter, not only for me, but the many people that's out here fighting this injustice.
Mr. Heyward, you may have already answered this question, I'm sorry, but the district attorney says because of a statute of limitations, the only charge they could bring is murder. Are you confident you can convict this officer of murder?
This deposition itself proves that it's murder. This deposition, the officer is stating himself that Nicholas Jr. Supposedly pointed this plastic toy gun at him and clicked it, and that's when he intentionally shot and killed Nicholas. This deposition is a complete different story from what DA Charles Hines used to close the case and not present it to a grand jury. we have two different statements. One from the district attorney, Brooklyn District Attorney Charles Hines, and one from police officer Brian George. I would like for you to speak with one of the attorneys who's working with me right now.
I'm going to take this.
Brother Roger Wareham.
Good afternoon.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Roger Wareham. I'm an attorney. I'm also a member of an organization called the December 12th Movement. This, W-A-R-E-H-A-M. This is a replica of the gun that supposedly was the realistic gun that Brian George used as an excuse to murder Nicholas Heyward. Mr. Heyward said this case was similar to Akai Gurley, similar in the sense that the police department made up the same story to justify a killing, but different in the sense that, as Mr. Heyward pointed out, the officer, it was not a dimly lit stairway. The officer could see, as anyone here can see, that this had no way resembles a real gun. Whether Nicholas Heyward, even if he hadn't dropped it, officer would know that this was no threat to him. And I think this is the point that people overlook. When Hines closed the case, he didn't show this gun. He showed a replica of a toy gun that looked like a real gun. This was the gun, and he had it in his possession. We don't know where it is now. We just met with the DA's office, the Civil Rights Unit. They have maintained that their commitment to look into this case. They have no records aside from the ones that we have provided to them, because for some reason the police department's records are nowhere to be found, the district attorney's records are nowhere to be found. So basically they are starting from scratch with whatever it was that we've presented to them, which is limited, but enough for them to open. But this should be enough to open the case. Everyone here looking at this can see that this is not a real gun.
Was it shaped exactly like this?
This is an exact copy of the gun. We went out and got the same copy after they had given one to the DA's office. This is what Nicholas Heyward had in his hands. This is an exact replica. You can see how big it is. You can see the big orange tip. No one would confuse this with a real weapon.
What were you asking of the DA's office?
We were asking them for an update since the last time we had met with them around their ability to find the records, the police department records and the district attorney's office records. And they told us they have not been able to find anything besides conducting a search. They have not been able to find it. They've got no record from the police department nor from whatever district attorney Hines had. There's nothing there. So they're going to proceed with the investigation. We have confidence that they're going to do that. They're dealing with the fact that there's a missing records. And I think that speaks to the question of what Mr. Heyward just said around, well, where did they go and what happened to it? We can only speculate. We just know that what exists, this is what exists. And we think we're going to meet with them again. So far, they have shown good faith. We think that the prosecution in the Akai Gurley case was a reflection of their willingness to pursue justice. And we hope that this is what's going to happen with Nicholas Heyward Jr. and that after 22 years, finally there'll be some justice for Nicholas Heyward. And then also raise the other question of that what happened with Nicholas Heyward is not an exception. That this was a pattern and practice of the Brooklyn DA's office under Charles Hines, and that we hope that this will be the tip of the iceberg in terms of uncovering a pattern of practice, malpractice in the district attorney's office.
Can you spell your name for me, please?
W-A-R-E-H-A-M.
So what would be... I'm sorry.
Roger.
Roger.
First name.
Oh, Roger.
What would define success for you here?
What would define success? A prosecution for murder of Brian George.
What's the likelihood that might actually happen?
The likelihood will depend on the depth of the investigation by the district attorney's office.
Why now? Why now?
Why now? Why now is because there's a new DA in town. Mr. Heyward has pursued this since his son was murdered, and he took it he actually had a meeting with District Attorney Hines in 2002 where he presented him with different documents. District Attorney Hines said he was going to pursue it. Haven't heard from him since.
Sir, are you worried there may be a lack of evidence here because of how much time has passed?
Are we worried? We're concerned, but there are witnesses who were there at the time. There was never been a follow-up in terms of the questioning. We think that if the DA's office pursues the investigation with those witnesses, that there'll be enough evidence to bring an indictment.
Mr. Heyward, I just want to ask you, emotionally, what are you feeling right now after this, after Officer Liang, after all of this, just the environment right now of indicting police officers? What's going through your mind right now, so many years after your son?
I can basically only say that all of this is very painful for me. It's been a struggle for 22 years of injustice, and I have been fighting vigorously when Charles Hines was in office. I presented him with all the evidence that he needed, including witnesses that he did not talk to during the time when Nicholas was killed. So I have already presented myself to Charles Hines, but he refused to even take a look at it. He never got back to me. So right now, how I'm feeling, I'm still feeling pain. I mean, I'm still feeling, I'm emotional about the whole situation. I mean, even sitting in the courtroom with the Kai Grawley trial, I mean, that was a whole painful situation for me because I was actually looking at the case of my son.
What did the DA's office tell you? What did they say to you? What did the DA's office say to you about this today?
Ken Thompson?
Yeah.
I haven't spoken directly with Ken Thompson.
But the people you spoke with today, what did they tell you?
They basically told me that they want to continue on with their investigation. They want to continue, to investigate the case of Nicholas Jr.
They said that they're going to proceed with it almost as if it were a cold case. That even given the lack of the documents that should be available, that they're going to proceed with it as a cold case and start from scratch, but that they're going to do that, and that we're confident, just based upon the track record that the DA has established over the year and a half that he's been in office, and their commitment that they're going to do everything they can to do this.
How long was the meeting?
How long was the meeting?
Yeah, roughly.
It's about 45 minutes. Okay. I mean, we met with their entire team. They have investigators, paralegals, the head of the Civil Rights Unit, and the deputy head of the Civil Rights Unit. So, I mean, it was the people who were important in terms of making this happen.
How confident are you that they're going to pursue this?
We're confident that they're going to pursue it. I mean, they could have said, look, there's not enough documents available, and we just can't do it. But they said we're going to proceed as a cold case, as if there were no documents, and they're going to pursue it. So this is one of those issues where time will tell. They've voiced their commitment to doing that. They've demonstrated in some of these other cases their willingness and commitment to doing that, and we're proceeding from there.
Sir, what's your exact relationship? Are you the attorney for Mr. Heyward?
He doesn't need an attorney, but I am an attorney who's dealt with these type of cases. I'm representing Melissa Butler, who was the woman in the stairway with Kai Grawley when he was murdered, when he was killed, and that just work in terms of my own community activism with an organization, the December 12th movement, that has dealt with these issues for the last 40 years.
And how long have you been working on this particular?
Probably since 1994 when I first met him. Yeah.
What's the next step for you guys? The literal next, what are you guys coming back next week?
We set a tentative meeting with the team, the civil rights team. So they're going to get, like I said,
in mid-April.
They're going to get up their investigation.
We've given them everything that we have, and we're in communications. If something else develops, they'll let us know. If something else develops on our end, we'll let them know. But there's a communication going and a cooperation.
What have you given them? What's the evidence that you have that toy gun and that? What else did you?
Just different documents that should have been available from the police department or the DA's office in terms of police records. This deposition where Brian George basically contradicts the reasons that Hines gave for closing the case. The things like that. Just things that in the normal course of things, they should have been available.
When you say you gave them those records, they said that they have tried to get the records themselves and haven't been able to obtain them.
Precisely. Right. They say they can't find them.
From either
From the
office or
from the DA's office or the police department.
I'd like to also introduce some more members of my team here. I have Roger Wareham, Graham Witherspoon, who's been working with me also in this case. He's been very, very helpful, and he's very knowledgeable about what happened with Nicholas Jr.
Former detective.
One of the problems we have in this case, being a former detective, in my first examination of the records, I found that there was no case number assigned to any of the reports. You cannot file material if you don't have something to refer it to. You normally would have a case number. None of the documents I saw had a case number. So if there's no case number, where do you put the paperwork? So it's very obvious that something was going on from the very beginning. We have special reports from the chief of housing at that time, from the duty captain, from the detectives that responded to the situation and were doing the investigation. But there is no case number on any of this material. So you cannot file something if you don't have a reference number to it. Sorry. So we're not surprised that they're saying they can't find it. The question is, how could you not have a case number? When you have a case number assigned not only to the case, but the case is logged in. So the DA is insistent upon pursuing the search for these documents. They've committed themselves to this case now that the Akai Gurley case is completed. Some of the same people are stepping into this case to assist us in this matter. This is why it's important that we vote in every election. Charles Hines spent 20 years. He came into this office on the back of a dead man, on the back of a dead black man, and did such a disservice to the people of this county. It's important that we vote in every election. Now that we have D.A. Thompson, it is very evident that we have a man that is about doing the job that he is appointed to do. The district attorney's job is to advocate in all cases for the victim, regardless of who the suspect or the perpetrator is. His job is to advocate for the victim, and especially when that victim is deceased. Somebody has to speak for the victim, and that is the job of the district attorney. So we're thankful to God that Ken Thompson is in this position now to assist the people of Kings County. And it's not only important for the people of Kings County, but for the people throughout the city and the state of New York to look at these positions seriously when it comes time to vote. Thank you.
Sure, what's your name?
Graham Witherspoon, W-E-A-T-H-E-R-S-P-O-O-N.
And what's your title?
I'm a retired detective from NYPD. I'm with the Amadou Diallo Foundation and the Black Law Enforcement Alliance.
How significant is it that they can't find these documents and they don't have a case number? What does that say about
It's very suspect that there is no case number assigned when it is the normal procedure in investigative work that a case number is assigned. You really have to ask yourself how and why. So it's very suspect to me as an investigator. I've worked on homicide cases. I've worked on police shootings. And the first thing you have a case number. Because I had to give information to the chief of detectives the following morning regarding that case. I had to be in the chief's office. What do we have? And you have a rundown. You have an index of every report done on that case. This is not something they've never done before, and it was an unusual occurrence case. It's an unusual occurrence. So special reports are done by the duty captains and other personnel in the police department. You can't haphazardly throw this material around. You have a case where a police officer discharged his weapon, a child was shot and killed. This is an unusual occurrence. You don't lose paperwork like that. DAs don't lose paperwork like that. It is very suspect. But D.A. Thompson has given us, his people have given us their word. I know a number of the investigators that work in these units. I've worked with them in the past. These are honorable people. And they will do everything that they can to pursue this matter, to bring justice to this man and to his family. Nobody should be waiting 21, 22 years for resolution of a case where their child has been killed because he was playing with a plastic rifle, which obviously posed no threat to anybody here today, nor did it pose a threat to the officers who were here the last time we were here when they saw it. They were not alarmed in seeing this on the sidewalk. So we'll be meeting again with the district attorney's people in April for an update, but they have committed themselves to pursuing this matter and to continue tracking down this material.
Will statute of limitations come into play?
There's no statute of limitations on murder.
Right.
So that, the legal aspect of it, the case can continue. Some of the lesser charges, yeah, there is a statute of limitation, but there is no statute of limitations on murder. And this is not the only case where something like this has happened under the tenure of Charles Hines. There are other cases as well, still pending.
I just have one more. I'd like the Councilman Steve Levin to say a few words. He's been also very supportive of me in this case.
Thank you. Well, I'm here today to offer my support to my friend Nicholas Heyward. I've known Nick for 6 years, and in those 6 years that I've known him, he has always pursued justice for his son, and he has lived 21 years with the pain of losing a child, and that is pain that nobody should have to live with. And every parent can understand pursuing justice for their child if their child was lost to the actions of somebody else. We want to extend our appreciation to DA Ken Thompson for looking into this case and for following the facts and for pursuing the truth. I don't know where those facts will lead, but we all have the aspirational goal in our society to pursue justice. That is what our laws are founded on. And as I said, any parent can understand this man's pursuit of justice in the name of his son.
Thank you.
And I want to say the name of his son, Nicholas Naquan Heyward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With Nicholas Heyward Sr. and investigating the death of his son, Nicholas Naquan Heyward Jr. Black groups all across this city, contrary to media reports, have been organizing for over 18 months in order to pursue justice for our loved ones, our brothers, our sons, our uncles, our nephews, our nieces, our aunts. So we stand in solidarity here today, and we will pursue this case the same as we supported the families of Akai Gurley. We want to make it known that police killings of unarmed black people is not an anomaly. Our memories go back even further to Eleanor Bumpers. Police of all races have killed our sons, our daughters, our mothers, our nieces, our nephews. It's not only white cops. Black cops have done it, Hispanic cops have done it, Asian cops have done it, Chinese cops have done it. So we want to make that clear. What is important to us is that we get justice for our families, and any type of state-sponsored violence against our communities is unpermitted. As a resident of NYCHA houses, vertical patrols need to stop. There is no reason why any officer of the NYPD should have weapons out in our communities for which we live, for which we pay rent, for which we raise our children. And it's unacceptable and it is abhorrent, and it results in the decades-long pain of Mr. Heyward Sr. here and many other families, such as Akai Gurley's family standing behind me. We're here to express our sustained indignation, and the movement in New York City is alive and well. And we are here and we will not stop until we seek justice. That is why accountability, Cop Watch Patrol Unit, Justice for Nicholas Naquan Heyward Jr. Committee, African Helping Africans. We are out here, Black Riders and Black Panthers. We are here to seek justice for our families, and we will not rest one day until all of these families seek justice and we raise and rise a community and standing up for themselves and for themselves. Thank you.
Justice for who?
Nicholas Heyward.
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 Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carolyn Lopez. This is my son, Carlos Rene. This is my son, Carlos Rene Lopez Jr. He also was killed on May 1st of 2003 by 2 officers. He was dragged from one side of the street to the other. They lied and said he had a gun. He didn't have no gun. And I want justice for my son. Charles Hines opened and shut the case at the 79th Precinct. And they did my son like he was an animal on the street. My son never was arrested or nothing. The ADA Charles Gurria also was working with Charles Hines. They had 2 police reports. One police report, they had a warrant out looking for my son. The other one, that he was dead, he was deceased. And they said he had a gun. There was never no gun found on my son or nothing. And I'm looking for justice for my son. He has a son that he never saw, and my grandson is 12 years old right now, and he said, who's going to be the father mentor for him? It can't be his uncles, it can't be nobody. So he wants to talk to Mr. Ken Thompson, the DA, and Obama, and see what's going on. I want my case open because they did my case wrong. They opened and shut it after they left my son on the street to die. And he didn't do nothing wrong. He was running for his life. The medical examiner indicated that he was dragged. That the cops had his knee in his back. They put a hoodie on my son, and he didn't have nothing. When they dragged him, he had 2 CDs in his hand, 50 CD, that rapper, and they put it in his left hand. They backed his hands on the street. They hold his body from May 1st, 03 to May 8th, 2003. And I buried my son that May 9th and May 10th. And I want justice, and I thank God that Mr. Ken Thompson is the DA today in here, because that's the man to help us. If it wasn't for him, God knows where we'd be at right now. And my heart goes out to all these mothers and fathers who lost a child. But I want justice for all our people and our family, because these cops right now is working and they getting a paycheck when I got to take care of my grandson, and he wants his father to be with him. When it was Father's Day to bring kids to school, and he did not go because he said he wants his father. His father could be right here with him, taking him to school, but where's he at now? In a cemetery, and the 2 officers is getting a paycheck every week for gun down at our kids. And it's not fair. It's not fair. And you know, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. And I want justice. They also, I had a meeting at Ken's office. And also I asked Charles Gurria, the ADA that was on the case, for my son's clothing. He said they destroyed the clothing. There wasn't no more use for it. Why? Because there was a hoodie put on my son that he never had a hoodie. He never had a hoodie on. So if he had a hoodie on, they would have given me his clothing, but they choose not to do it. So I want justice for my son, and again, I thank God that Mr. Ken Thompson is in the seat right now. Thank you.
Travis Morales, Stop Mass Incarceration.
My name is Travis Morales with the Stop Mass Incarceration Network. I'm a supporter of the Revolutionary Communist Party. and a 20-year organizer of the October 22nd National Day of Protest to stop police brutality, repression, and the criminalization of a generation. I want you to look at this picture. Look at this picture. This 13-year-old child, a child that was gunned down 21 and a half years ago. And I got the question, why the hell do we have to be out here today, 21 and a half years later, demanding justice? Why wasn't Brian George indicted? Why was his murder of Nicholas Jr. covered up? Why was that? Why was it that with all the evidence Nicholas has told us today, this cop wasn't indicted? Well, I'll tell you why. It's a very simple answer. The role of the police is not to serve and protect the people. It is to serve and protect the system that rules over the people, to enforce the relations of exploitation and oppression, the conditions of poverty, misery, and degradation into which the system has cast people. Look, if it wasn't, what was Brian George doing there? He was doing the same thing Peter Liang was doing in the stairwell of those projects. He was out there hunting black people. That's what he was doing. He had his gun drawn, Peter Liang. When Nicholas Jr. dropped his toy weapon, said, "We're just playing," did that cop care? No. Brian George blew him away anyway. And I got a question for you. When you answer the question of why Brian George was never indicted, think about this. Since Obama came into office, 1,100 people a year are being murdered by the police. Do the math. After 7 years, that's 7,000 people at least. Black president, black attorney general, Eric Holder, Loretta Lynch. And how many of these cops have ever been indicted by the Justice Department for murdering our people? Zero. If it wasn't the job of the police, if it wasn't the job of Brian George to blow away this young man, he would have been punished. But they're never punished because this is their job. Time after time after time, they murder us and get away with it. This has to stop. The mass incarceration, the wars for empire, the roundup and degradation of immigrants, all the other crimes of this system. Yes, it's going to take revolution. And part of getting there is being out in the streets, demanding justice, demanding they stop killing our children. To metaphorically, I'm not advocating here, I'm just telling you, metaphorically, the cities have to be on fire with people demanding justice and demanding that this stop. Rise up. Stop police terror. Which side are you on? Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell.
I'd like to call another speaker from the Justice Committee that's been very supportive of me over the years. My brother Majesty, come on, brother.
It's difficult in these times to say something that hasn't already been said. And I just want to reaffirm that the demand in this case is very clear. For the Brooklyn DA, Ken Thompson, to do the right thing and fully investigate this case. It's so evident that there was a cover-up here in this case. And the fact that this case was never fully investigated, swept under the rug, is an injustice. We're not here asking for a favor. We're asking for these individuals to do their job, and we need the Brooklyn District Attorney, Ken Thompson, to fully investigate this case, point blank, simple and plain. And we'll continue to stand with Nicholas and all families who have suffered under this system of police violence. And that's that, man. You know what I mean? Do your job. It's really that simple.
Thank you, brother. You wanted to say something else you didn't say.
I'm sorry, this is Lopez again. Also, my case never went to grand jury. And, and I asked why Charles Hines, when he tried to run again, and he poured my house and said, "Ms. Lopez, I would try to work with you with your case, but vote for me. And I did not do that, okay? I made up my mind because I'm not a person that will go back and do something what he did wrong. I knew who I was gonna vote for, which was Mr. Ken Thompson. But at the end of the day, my case never went to grand jury, and I want my case to go to grand jury. And also, the police is still harassing me. They raided my apartment twice. They handcuffed my grandson. 5 of us went through the system. They let us out. And, you know, this got to stop. They still harassing me because I never let my case go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Everybody.